Reuben, I appreciate you sitting down with me. I know you've been pretty busy this conference. You guys have a booth.
Yep.
And how did that go for you? Tell me about your booth this year. Is it a good experience? People interested in what you're doing?
Yeah, so our booth this year was fantastic. So out of all the conferences we've done, and we've been doing conferences for 8-9 years, I would say by far the best booth experience yet.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about what your company's doing these days. I know you're working on several different things.
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about what some of the projects you guys have, what you do.
So our big project is a system called Anan. Right. And it's the idea of being able to support people in the way that everyone kind of connects with the web naturally. Right. Which is that, you know, I've got my devices, I've got my computers, and when I want to connect with content, I go out and I connect with content, but I only want to connect with the content that's suitable for me.
Yes.
And so we've really moved away from this idea of creating a singular experience for Jeff Tillett, and here you go, here's your singular experience. We're more concerned with there's a whack of resources available to Jeff Tillett,
right.
And at the moment that Jeff Tillett wants to go into the system, that the system will be intelligent enough to know who Jeff Tillett is, what are the resources that are appropriate for Jeff, what devices are Jeff using, and here are the resources available to you, and let's package that in a way that doesn't seem so Frankensteinish, because that's the comment we always get is don't you end up with some Frankenstein thing, and to deliver in a way that isn't that way. Right. All that being said is, overall, I think people tend to over-design stuff, and so we learn all the time by going through different resources that don't look the same.
Right.
You know, we take a piece here, we take a piece there, and we build our own narrative in between about what we want to do with that stuff. So we're really kind of working on systems that fuel that sort of paradigm.
Awesome. So, I mean, you're really responding to kind of a shift that's happening, hopefully, right now in our industry as far as how people learn and how they engage with training.
Yeah. So one of the big things that that I think everyone needs to recognize is learning content is no different than marketing content. It's no different from operational content. It's not a separate set of content.
Right.
And that being said, if I take a single organization and I look at all the content within that, and I think about all the duplication of content, you know, how there might be product information, marketing takes that product information, does their thing with it, engineering does their thing with it, training and development then takes it and does their thing with it. And so now I have all this stuff. At the rate at which information is changing, growing and all that stuff, you got to figure that, you know, a single idea or piece of knowledge within an organization that's replicated 3 times means that when that changes, I've got 3 pieces of digital waste, not just 1 piece.
Right.
And so this is about workplace performance and efficiency. And so how do people get to the content that they need, kind of going through the digital waste, and again, acquiring kind of the parts that they need. So I'm really less interested in learning. Like we're not focusing on trying to promote learning, because I think people have shown that they can learn given black font on a white background. People learn fine. We've been reading books forever and learning from books, and people learn fine that way. It's really about, you know, being able to augment existing experiences and letting people. So I was just sitting in a session, and the speaker started to talk. And as the speakers were talking, I was Googling kind of the concepts that were interesting to me and kind of building my own narrative about what was relevant about what they were saying. And then I started a conversation with them based on what I had just learned. And I think that process was a way more effective process and more efficient process than then had they tried to kind of build out a course that was bundled and said, here you go, here's everything you need to know. I would have lost interest in 2 seconds, because I would have been like, who cares? But the fact that I went out and they gave me an idea, I Googled the idea, I read articles about the idea, and now I had a conversation with them about how I thought what they were saying could be applied, was a way more engaging experience than animated characters and videos and whatever it was that they were going to do.
Well, it becomes your experience at that point, right? It's relevant to you.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's one of the shifts that's happening now with, I mean, the internet's kind of done that for us, right? If I'm watching TV, which I don't watch a lot of TV, yeah. I have my iPad, and if I see something that's interesting, I go, okay, or who's that actor, or what did they else did they do? And so it's we have a little more control of our of what we are taking in these days. We customize it ourselves to make it relevant and interesting to us. So
absolutely,
I think it's a fantastic shift, and I think definitely learning and development folks should be aware of that. And when they're building their content, when they're trying to create a user experience, I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, one thing that learning and development people need to stop doing is need to stop talking about themselves as learning and development people. Right? They need to become systems people.
Sure.
They need to understand the systems that make their businesses work.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way I can figure out, if I'm able to map out the inputs and outputs of a business and map that together, I can become really effective at kind of figuring out the friction points at which I should be making resources available to people.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't mean, by the way, and this is where I think people get confused, I want my pilot, before I get onto a plane, to go through a very formal type of education and pass certain checkpoints along the way. I want my pilot to still do that. I don't want my pilot walking into a plane without knowing how to fly the plane and saying, I'm going to deliver content to him at the moment that he starts to lift off.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want that.
Yeah.
But that's where the whole formal part of that education becomes an on-demand thing, because if you're delivering that, if you deliver content, there's got to be a reason for it.
Right.
And a pilot, before he goes onto a plane, I need him to have a certain level of confidence before he goes onto the plane. That makes everything that happens in that pilot's training necessary, and let's stop talking about it as being in the moment of need. Like, you should always be delivering things in the moment of need. And the moment of need might not be when someone is doing it. It might be 10 months before.
Absolutely.
It might be 2 years before. Yeah. The moment of need can expand over several months. There can be, do you know what I mean? Like, so one thing that we tend to do is we tend to call performance support moment of need as some sort of ancillary type of idea to the bulk of training. And that makes us totally irrelevant.
Just too late?
It's, it ought to be that training is something that we can choose to do, right, as part of a moment of need or supporting performance.
Right.
Not the other way around.
Right. We should have a continual stream of information available to us at all times, depending on what we're doing or what that need is right now. Whether if I'm a pilot learning to fly, there's a different need than I have a new plane that I've never, that I haven't, this instrument's different. I need to learn a little bit about that particular piece or whatever. So
totally.
Yeah. So what are you excited about right now that's happening and changing in this world that we're kind of in here?
So I'm excited. There are some companies. I mean, you guys are one of them that are kind of, I think, really kind of working on new ideas, and I don't think any of us know how well those ideas are going to work out. But I think the fact that people are trying new ideas and breaking out of the mold, I think, excites me. So I don't think there's a lot of us. I don't think there's a lot of people doing that stuff, bringing new products that aren't the rapid development stuff, that aren't the LMSs, that aren't the LCMSs. I don't think there's a lot of people kind of putting those products out. But those people that are, that's the stuff that excites me.
Yeah.
Rabble Browser excites me. I have no one to use it with, but I downloaded it, I paid for it, because I thought it's kind of neat.
Fun.
I can show people, I can say, look, here's something, it's not like anything you've probably seen before, and I can talk about many applications for it. I don't have any data to back it up, but I do know that the fact that people are trying new things is exciting.
And I really agree. I think that there's a handful of people out there that are trying to kind of shake things up, right? They're trying to set a new level, change the game a little bit, kind of the Federal Express thing, right? Create the game, the new game, and everybody else will come along with you.
Yep, totally.
So it's exciting. It's an exciting time to see all that. I think we're responding to the fact that some of the stuff we've been doing hasn't been working very well, right? Mm-hmm. And so it'll be interesting to see how that, how these new things, new concepts change what we're doing in our profession. So.
Totally.
All right. Well, so what's next for you guys? Anything really exciting that you can talk about, or you got your eye on anything?
I think, so if I go back to the Anan product first, that for us, this show proved to us that we are most definitely on the right track.
Right.
That people are living the hell of digital waste, right? That they have stuff on their Dropbox, they have stuff on their computers, they have stuff on shared drives, and one of the things that's preventing them personally, regardless of what the organization is doing, that this becomes a personal information management sort of thing, where I need to get to information faster, better. I need to be able to find that one slide out of all my thousands of slides. I need to find the one Word document. And it's not just about finding it. It's about being able to, once I found it, actually bring it out of its format and do something with it. So, I know of some pretty interesting tools that are really good at finding stuff. Once you found it, I now need to work with the information. And I think the technologies that we're working on is about extracting the content that might sit in a Word file, that might sit in a PowerPoint, and being able to extract it and bring it into another medium and bring it into another format so that it's usable in the different contexts we expect it to be used in.
Absolutely. It's kind of like just because you have a library, right, of books, doesn't mean that they're getting used, that they're valuable. They're not valuable until you pull them out, right? So, fantastic. Well, I appreciate you sitting down and talking to me. I'm looking forward to seeing how Anan does in the next year. You got some new customers from the conference, and so I think it'll be great to see what those customer engagements do for your product, how you can help them kind of take things to the next level, and how you also evolve your product based on your customer interactions. I think that'll be really exciting. So.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, man. Awesome.